Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. I'm Nick Park. I'm taking us through a series called The Biblical Game of Thrones. We're really nearing the end of it now because today we are looking at the last of the kings over the people of Israel or Judah. We've seen how Josiah was one of the best of kings. In fact, the only king in all of the kings who had no sin recorded against his name in Scripture. And we've seen how two of Josiah's sons had become king after him, and that would be Jehoahaz and also Eliakim. And then Josiah's grandson, Coniah, had also very briefly become king. And then finally, the last king of Judah was another son of Josiah, and his name was Mattaniah, who also had the name Zedekiah. It's if you look at a list of the kings, it sometimes has one name, so to say, Mattaniah, aka, otherwise known as Zedekiah, which is the kind of thing we often see with criminals who have false names that they go under. Well, to be honest, these final set of kings, they were a bunch of gangsters anyway. They really were. And Mattaniah was another son of Josiah. And he would have been just 10 years old when his father had died. But obviously, with all the stuff that went on with his his two brothers and his nephew, when he came to the throne, he was 21 years of age. And this is what Scripture says about him. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. His mother's name was Hamudal, daughter of Jeremiah. She was from Libnah. And he did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just as Jehoiakim had done. It was because of the Lord's anger that all this happened to Jerusalem and Judah. And in the end, he thrust them from his presence. Now, there was nothing that Zedekiah could have done to have stopped the Lord from destroying Jerusalem. It had already tipped back past the point of no return a long time ago. But those verses in 2 Kings chapter 24 show us that he was another wicked king. And his wickedness was combined with stupidity, because the only thing that enabled him to be king in Judah was the patronage of the Babylonians. They had appointed him to that position. He was a client king, and he rebelled against the Babylonians who had appointed him. Now, in other circumstances, that could have been considered a noble act. The fact that by rebelling against the Babylonians, he was standing up for the people of God. But in fact, God had basically abandoned the cause of the kingdom of Judah. And it was now time for Judah to be destroyed by the Babylonians. And so Zedekiah's rebellion, it only hastened that judgment. So he was another wicked king. He was an idolater. If he was going to try and rebel against the idolaters of the Babylonians and stand up for the people of God, he would have needed to have aligned himself spiritually with God. But he didn't. He rejected God. He worshipped idols instead. And so he was no better in God's sight than Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. And so the scripture says that Nebuchadnezzar came and carried away the people into captivity. Zedekiah was killed. Jerusalem was destroyed. The temple was destroyed. The Ark of the Covenant was carried away, the symbol of God's presence, and was never seen again. Even when the temple would be rebuilt again after the Babylonian captivity and under Nehemiah and Ezra and all of that, there was never going to be an Ark of the Covenant in it again. Nobody to this day has seen the Ark of the Covenant since. We don't know. There's always theories about where it might be and that it's hidden somewhere. But most likely it got stripped of its gold. The gold was melted down, the wood destroyed. And so this is the end of the kings of Israel and Judah. There would be no more kings until Jesus, no more real kings. You'd still have the odd foreigner ruling over, whether it was a Syrian king, whether it was an Edomite king like Herod, a puppet king under a Roman emperor, but no real kings, no more genuine kings in Israel, over in Jerusalem, no more son of David sitting on the throne until the coming of Jesus, which of course what all these kings were leading up to. The whole, yeah, it made a difference at the time who was seated on the throne, whether the king was a good king or a bad king. But the most important thing of all was the coming of Jesus. Because behind all these people and their games of thrones, God was bringing the one who would sit on a throne forever and ever. God bless you. Join us again next time for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.